This is a very interesting question, and one that people have asked down through the centuries, and they will ask until Jesus comes. Why does God allow evil, pain, and suffering when He has the power to prevent it? Well, think about a world without choice. That wouldn't be any life at all. And the fact that you and I have a choice in life means that we have a choice to do the right thing or the wrong thing. And oftentimes, suffering comes with the freedom to choose. If I choose what is good for me, does that mean I will never have suffering? No. If I choose what is wrong for me, will I always have suffering? Most of the time, and eventually, yes. And so what happens is this. When we have suffering and pain, one of the reasons that God has allowed that is to reveal to us the consequences of sin. If you and I could sin against God, disobey Him, and there's no pain, no suffering, because of our fallen nature, we would just keep on doing the same thing. So we have choices. We have freedom to choose. But when we choose those things that are disobedient to God, we're going to suffer the consequences. One of the reasons He has allowed pain and suffering is for our own protection. Think about it this way. It also alerts us to danger. Suppose there were no pain and no suffering. Let's say, for example, that you broke your kneecap, you tore the ligaments, and you tore the cartilage, and there was no pain. Imagine what kind of condition you would be in very shortly. So all pain and all suffering is not bad. Pain and suffering are here for a reason, and one of those reasons is to alert us to danger. Then, of course, is it not true that suffering and pain reveals who we are? Because it's one thing to rejoice and to be happy, go lucky, or whatever it might be, when everything's going our way. How do we respond when things are not going our way? How do we respond when we are sick? How do we respond when we are confined, where we don't like being confined, in the bed? And especially if you're a person who loves the outdoors and you're up and at 'em and you have lots of energy and all of a sudden you don't have any. What's going on? Why does God allow these things to happen in our life? Well, one of the reasons is we find out who we are. We think we're strong. We think we're patient. We think we have everything under control. And all of a sudden you're lying there, there's awful pain, and you're suffering, and you don't have a solution. You don't have an answer. And what happens? We recognize our need of God. Paul was dealing with the same situation. Remember what he said? He said, here's what he discovered. In his pain and suffering that God would not remove, he said he discovered the sufficiency of the grace of God when God said to him, my grace is sufficient. There's some things you and I are going to learn in the midst of suffering and pain. We're not going to learn any other way. I mean, some of the most powerful lessons in my own life have been the result of coming to the end of myself and recognizing, God, if you don't help me, I don't have any solution. Drives us to God. And you say, well, that's not love. Oh, yes, it is. Anything that drives you and me to God is good for us. And what Paul said in the midst of this suffering that God would not remove, he discovered something about himself. He discovered something about God. And he said now he could rejoice over the very thing that was causing him pain because of what he learned, because of the freedom and the liberty that he began to experience as a result of that. And what did God do as a result of that pain and suffering in his life? It equipped him to help others. And I can look back in my own life again and realize that things that I've been through that have caused me the most difficulty, the most painful, and the times of greatest suffering have equipped me as a pastor to help other people who are going through the same thing. People said to me, for example, well, I used to couldn't watch you, used to couldn't listen to you because I thought, what do you know about hurt and pain and suffering and loneliness and all the rest? You don't know anything about that. Now I can listen to you. Now I can watch and know that you're speaking out of experience, not having read a book. There's something about experiencing difficulty, hardship, and pain that equips us to do what? To help others, and also we discover the awesome power of God to comfort us. Then, of course, naturally it draws us to himself. And I say again to you, anything that draws me to God is good for me, whether I like it or not. And of course, pain and suffering causes us to consider eternity. There's a life beyond this one. And I would simply ask you this question. Are you focusing more about why God does this than you are, Lord, what are you saying to me in this? What do you want to change in my life? What do you want to do in me and through me that this pain and this suffering is a part of the preparation? Well, remember this. Pain and suffering will either make us better, or the wrong response, it'll make you bitter, and you do not want that in your life. Remember, God has a purpose. He didn't say I'd understand it. He does have a purpose, and he'll turn it for your good if you will respond in a matter of thanksgiving and praise, even though you don't understand it. That's not the issue. He didn't say I'd understand it. He says trust him, and he'll turn it for your good. Well, that's all the time we have for today. And remember, God could use your email questions to encourage someone else. Right there, your pain, your heartache, your questions, your doubt, your fears become a catalyst to a question that answers the issues in the lives of other people, and God used you to do it. So keep sending them. And I look forward to hearing from you again next week. And thanks for joining us today on In Touch. And until next week, obey God, leave all the consequences to him, because that's living life at its very best. And that's the life he has prepared for you. No matter what you're going through today, his best is his choice.